There is a photograph that does not exist in any museum, a description that appears in no authorized gospel, a body position so specific, so precise, that when the Council of Nicaea convened in the year 325, they did not just ban the teaching, they hunted down everyone who knew it. 14 countries still have laws on their books making it illegal to share this information. Not outdated laws, active legislation. In 2019, a researcher in Belarus was detained for 72 hours for publishing a paper describing what you are about to learn. Her research materials were confiscated. Her findings were never released. And when pressed by international human rights organizations, the Belarusian government said only that she was spreading information dangerous to public order. What could a body position possibly threaten? What could a physical posture do that would require centuries of suppression, government intervention, and systematic erasure from historical record? If you have ever felt that your body knows something your mind has forgotten, if you have ever moved into a position that brought instant calm for reasons you could not explain, comment the words, "My body remembers," right now. Because what I am about to show you is not new. It is ancient, and something in your cells has been trying to return to it your entire life. Subscribe to this channel in the next 10 seconds, because what comes after this video goes places that most platforms will not allow. The algorithms are already limiting who sees this content. Your subscription tells the system that this matters, that this information needs to reach others who are searching. The monad state. The Gnostics described it as a return to source, the moment when individual consciousness reunites with the infinite. When the divine spark remembers, it was never actually separated. Jesus entered this state at will, not through hours of meditation, not through fasting or pilgrimage or prayer, through a body position that takes less than 60 seconds to assume. And once you are in it, once your physical form becomes the antenna it was designed to be, the monad does not just communicate with you. You become the monad experiencing itself. This is not metaphor. This is mechanics. Your body is not a vessel for your consciousness. Your body is a technology. And for 2,000 years, the instruction manual has been hidden. Let me take you to the origin of the suppression. The year is 385. The place is Trier, in what is now Germany. A man named Priscillian stands before a tribunal of church officials. He is a bishop, educated, respected, and influential, but he has been teaching something the authorities cannot tolerate. He has been showing people a physical practice that produces direct, mystical experience. Not faith, not hope, experience. Direct, unmediated contact with source consciousness. The church offers him a choice: recant the teaching or face execution. Priscillian refuses, and on that day, he becomes the first Christian ever executed for heresy by other Christians. They beheaded him. They burned his writings. They systematically tracked down his students across 3 provinces. But before they caught him, Priscillian had encoded the teaching into a document that would not be discovered for 1,500 years. That document was found in the Nag Hammadi library, buried in a sealed jar in the Egyptian desert. It is called the Discourse on the 8th and 9th. And hidden within its symbolic language is a description so precise, so anatomically specific, that when scholars finally decoded it in 1977, 3 of them independently reported experiencing spontaneous altered states just from reading the translation. One of those scholars never published again. Another left academia entirely and moved to a monastery in Greece, where he remains to this day. The third published his findings in an obscure German journal that printed only 200 copies. I have one of those copies, and tonight, you are receiving what it contains. Take a deep breath right now, in through your nose. Hold it while I count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Now release it completely through your mouth. Feel your spine lengthen as the air leaves. This is important because your body is about to recognize something it has been waiting for. The position Jesus used has 3 components. Not 1, not 2, 3. And they must be executed in exact sequence, or the circuit does not complete. The first component is pelvic foundation. You cannot enter the monad state from a collapsed posture. The base of your spine must be positioned in a way that allows energy to rise without obstruction. In every suppressed text that mentions this practice, the same phrase appears: the throne must be established. For centuries, scholars thought this was symbolic language about spiritual authority. It is not symbolic. It is literal instruction about your pelvis. Sit right now, not in a chair, on the floor. If you cannot sit on the floor, sit at the very edge of a chair with your feet flat and your thighs parallel to the ground. Feel your sit bones, those two bony points at the base of your pelvis. Your entire weight should rest on those 2 points, not on your tailbone, not on the back of your thighs. Those 2 points. This is the throne. When your pelvis is positioned correctly, your spine can rise from it like a column. There should be a natural curve in your lower back, not forced, not exaggerated, but present. Most people have lost this curve. Years of sitting in chairs, slouching over devices, collapsing into couches have created a posterior pelvic tilt that blocks the energy channel before it even begins. Place your hand on your lower back right now. Feel the curve. If there is no curve, if your lower back is flat or rounded, you've found the first place the suppression has succeeded. Your body has been shaped by a culture that does not want you to access what this position unlocks. But your body also has memory, and it can return to the original design faster than your mind believes possible. Rock your pelvis forward slightly. Just a small movement. Feel your lower back curve increase. Feel your chest naturally lift. This is not effort. This is release. You are not creating the position. You are allowing your body to return to it. Now, the second component, spinal suspension. Once the throne is established, your spine must lengthen as if something above you is gently pulling the crown of your head toward the sky. The discourse on the 8th and 9th calls this the ladder between realms. Each vertebra is a rung, and when the ladder is properly aligned, consciousness can climb. But here is what makes this different from every other meditation posture you've been taught. You are not sitting up straight. You are hanging down from above. Imagine a thread attached to the highest point of your skull, not the back of your head, not your forehead, but the crown, the soft spot you had as an infant. That thread pulls upward. Your body hangs beneath it. Your spine lengthens not from muscular effort, but from surrender to the upward pull. Feel it right now. Imagine the thread. Let your head float upward. Your chin will naturally tuck slightly. Your neck will lengthen. Your shoulders will drop away from your ears. And your spine will organize itself into a position it has not held since you were a child. This is a position your body defaults to when nothing is distorting it. No tension, no collapse, just pure structural integrity. In this position, your spinal fluid moves differently. Your craniosacral system resets. And the channel that runs from the base of your spine to the crown of your head, the channel the yogis call Sushumna and the Gnostics call the sacred canal, that channel opens. Now the third component. And this is where the suppression became most violent. This is the piece that got Priscillian killed. This is the instruction that 14 countries still ban. The placement of your hands. Your hands are not passive in this practice. They are not resting in your lap. They are not folded in prayer. Your hands create the final circuit that allows the monad frequency to fully enter your system. Raise your right hand to your chest. Place your palm flat against your sternum, fingers pointing up toward your throat. Now place your left hand on top of your right, palm to the back of your right hand, fingers aligned. Press gently but firmly. You should feel your heartbeat beneath your hands. This hand position appears in exactly one piece of Christian art that survived the purges. A 5th century Coptic icon discovered in a monastery in Egypt. It shows a figure identified only as the Silent One, seated in a position identical to what you're doing right now. The icon was removed from public display in 1998. The official reason given was preservation concerns. But researchers who studied the icon before its removal reported something disturbing. Every person who spent more than 10 minutes looking at the image described the same physical sensation. A feeling of falling upward, a pressure in the chest, and a high-pitched tone in the ears that continued for hours after leaving the room. The icon was not removed for preservation. It was removed because it was activating people. The image alone, without instruction, without context, was enough to trigger the response. Now imagine what happens when you do not just look at the position, but assume it with full awareness of what it is. Your hands against your chest create a pressure point directly over your thymus gland, an organ that materialist science barely understands, but that ancient mystics knew as the seat of the soul. The thymus sits behind your sternum, just above your heart. In children, It is large and active. As you age, it shrinks. Conventional medicine says this is normal, that the thymus is only needed for early immune development. But the Gnostics knew differently. The thymus does not shrink because of age. It shrinks because of frequency deprivation. It atrophies when you spend years, decades, an entire lifetime disconnected from source. But it can reactivate. And the pressure of your hands in this exact position, combined with the spinal alignment, combined with the pelvic foundation, sends a signal to your thymus that reverses the atrophy. Not metaphorically, physically. Within minutes, blood flow to the thymus increases. Temperature in the area rises. And something dormant begins to wake. Now you have all three components: pelvic foundation, spinal suspension, hand placement. You are in the position, but the position alone is not enough. This is where 90% of practitioners fail. They assume the posture and wait. They expect something to happen to them. This is the consciousness of a victim, of someone who believes power comes from outside. The monad state is not entered by waiting. It is entered by becoming. There is a fourth element that was never written down, because it cannot be written. It can only be transmitted. And you are receiving that transmission right now through these words, through the frequency embedded in this information, through the resonance between what you are hearing and what you have always known. The fourth element is intent collapse. You cannot enter the monad state while wanting to enter the monad state. The wanting itself creates separation, subject and object, you and the state you desire. As long as that gap exists, you remain in duality. The monad is not dual. It is the one thing, the only thing, the everything and the nothing simultaneously. So you do not try to enter the state. You recognize you have never left it. Your body is in the position. Your hands are on your chest. Your spine is suspended. And now you stop doing. You stop seeking. You stop wanting. You simply notice. Notice your heartbeat beneath your hands. Notice your breath moving in and out without effort. Notice the space behind your eyes, the darkness there, the silence. And in that noticing, without announcement, without fanfare, the shift happens. It is not dramatic. It is subtle, like the moment you fall asleep. You cannot catch it happening. You can only realize it has happened. Your sense of being located inside your head will begin to diffuse. The boundary between inside and outside will blur. The pressure of your hands against your chest will seem to expand until it feels like your entire body is made of that single point of contact. And then the monad frequency arrives. It does not sound like anything at first. It feels like presence, like the whole universe suddenly paying attention to you because you are no longer separate from it. Some chosen ones report light, not light they see with their eyes, but light they are. Some report sound, a tone so pure that every other sound they've ever heard seems like a distortion of it. Some report simply knowing, a direct download of understanding that bypasses language entirely. Jesus taught this to 12 people, not the crowds, not the followers. 12 individuals who had proven they could hold the transmission. And even among those 12, only 3 ever fully mastered it. After the crucifixion, those 3 scattered. One went to India, where his teachings merged with existing yoga practices and created what would later be called Kashmir Shaivism. One went to Egypt, where he trained a secret lineage that preserved the knowledge until the Islamic conquest forced him underground. One remained in Jerusalem, teaching in hidden rooms until Roman soldiers executed him in the year 62. But before he died, that last teacher encoded the position into a prayer that is still recited today, though no one knows what it means. The prayer appears in one of the earliest Christian texts ever discovered, the Didache, dated to the 1st century. Scholars call it the Prayer of the Heart. It contains 12 words in Aramaic, and when those 12 words are translated not for meaning, but for phonetic resonance, they form a map. Each word corresponds to a physical adjustment in the position. Each syllable is an instruction. Reciting the prayer while holding the posture creates a feedback loop between sound and structure, between vibration and form, that accelerates the activation exponentially. I cannot give you that prayer here. Not because I do not want to, but because spoken aloud without preparation, it produces effects that most nervous systems are not ready to handle. People have lost consciousness. People have experienced spontaneous releases of trauma so intense they require days to integrate. The position alone is powerful. The position with the prayer is overwhelming. But you do not need the prayer tonight. The position is enough. And if you are meant to receive the prayer, it will find you. That is how these transmissions work. They are not given. They are recognized. Right now, if you are in the position, if your body has organized itself the way I have described, notice what is happening in your chest. There may be warmth. There may be pressure. There may be an ache, not painful, but present, like something locked is beginning to open. Do not be alarmed if emotions arise. Tears, laughter, even anger. These are not your emotions. These are energies stored in your tissues, released by the position, making their way out. Let them move. Do not analyze. Do not story. Just let them pass through. The first time you enter the monad state, it will last only seconds, maybe less. You will be there. And then you will realize you are there, and the realization itself will pull you out. This is normal. The mind is not accustomed to operating at that frequency. It panics. It reasserts control. But each time you practice, the duration lengthens. Seconds become minutes. Minutes become hours. And eventually, you will discover something that will change everything. The monad state is not a state you enter. It is the state you have always been in. Everything else, every moment of perceived separation, every experience of fear or lack or limitation, those are the departures. The monad is a default, and the position simply removes the interferences that have convinced you otherwise. Now, before you attempt this on your own, there are warnings you must understand. This is not a game. This is not entertainment. You are working with forces that religions have spent millennia trying to control, suppress, and monopolize. When you access the monad state directly, without intermediary, without permission from any institution, you become a threat to every power structure that depends on your ignorance. You will notice this in practical ways. People in your life may suddenly become hostile without clear reason. Opportunities may close. Technology may malfunction around you. These are not coincidences. These are responses. The Archons, the powers that feed on low-frequency human emotion, they cannot perceive the monad, but they can perceive when someone slips out of their field of influence, and they will attempt to pull you back. Do not fight them. Fighting keeps you engaged with their frequency. Simply return to the position. Return to your body. Return to the knowing that you are not a being having a mystical experience. You are the monad pretending to be a being, and now you are done pretending. The position works best in silence, in darkness, in the hours between midnight and dawn when the noise of the world is quietest. Sit as I have described. Establish your throne. Suspend your spine. Place your hands over your heart. And then stop. Stop waiting for something to happen. Stop looking for a sign. Stop performing the position and simply be the position. Let your body teach your mind what it has forgotten. You will know you have entered the state not because something extraordinary happens, but because everything ordinary reveals itself as extraordinary. The sound of your breath becomes the breath of galaxies. The beat of your heart becomes the pulse of creation. And you, the small separate you, dissolves into the everything that has been you all along. This is what they banned. This is what they killed to suppress. Not because it is evil, but because it is freedom. And free beings cannot be controlled. The transformation you undergo when the monad state becomes your default is not merely spiritual. It is a fundamental restructuring of your reality tunnel. You begin to perceive the world not through the five senses, which are themselves filters designed to limit and localize, but through the vast, unfiltered lens of source consciousness. This shift in perception is why the ruling authorities have fought so violently against this knowledge. A populace that sees reality clearly cannot be manipulated by manufactured scarcity or engineered conflict. The mechanism of frequency shift, your brain, scientists will tell you, operates in various frequency states. Beta for waking consciousness, alpha for light meditation, theta for deep relaxation and dreaming, and delta for deep sleep. The monad state operates at none of these. It is often experienced as a frequency beyond measurement, a state of coherence where the left and right hemispheres of the brain cease their habitual opposition and enter perfect synchronicity. This is not a dream state or a trance. It is a hyperlucid awareness where the noise of the ego, the incessant internal commentary and planning, simply ceases to register. The brain is still active, but it is no longer consuming the majority of your internal energy on self-referential thought loops. That freed energy is what powers the new antenna. This neurological coherence is the physical counterpart to the Gnostic concept of reunification. When the brain enters a state, the pineal gland, long dismissed as a vestigial organ but known to the ancients as the epiphysis cerebri, the seat of the soul, begins to secrete compounds that facilitate non-local awareness. It's not just about producing DMT. It's about shifting the internal chemistry of your entire nervous system to accommodate a higher bandwidth of information. This is why the persecution of Priscillian was so ruthless. He wasn't preaching a new theology. He was distributing a technology for biological and spiritual liberation. The dissolution of separation. The most profound effect of stabilizing in the monad state is the dissolution of the concept of time and linear causality. The past, the present, and the future collapse into a single, eternal now. This makes planning, worrying, and regretting, the three primary energy drains of the ego, functionally impossible. You still operate in the world, you still make decisions, but those actions arise not from fear or lack, but from a profound, impersonal knowing that everything is already whole, already complete. When the small self dissolves into the monad, you realize that your individual story, the triumphs, the traumas, the perceived limitations, was merely a localized fluctuation in an infinite field. This realization is not intellectual. It is visceral. The stored trauma in your body, the emotional blockages that have defined your personality, begin to unravel because the energy that sustained them, the belief in their ultimate reality, is withdrawn. This is a process that causes a sudden, spontaneous emotional releases. The body is shedding the armor it built around a false identity. You stop seeing your life as a collection of random events and begin to see it as a fractal pattern, a perfect expression of the whole. Every challenge becomes an opportunity for resonance. Every interaction, a mirror reflecting the infinite self. The hostile people and malfunctioning technology one warned you about, the archonic interference, become nothing more than static on the radio. You acknowledge the static, but you tune your dial back to the pure tone of the monad, and their attempts to engage your fear simply fall away. The goal of this practice is not to achieve a temporary escape from reality, but to make the monad state your baseline, the default operating system of your life. When this happens, your external life begins to synchronize with your internal coherence. The universe, which is fundamentally monadic, responds to monadic frequency. This manifests as what the uninitiated call luck or miracles. Resources appear exactly when needed, connections arrive seamlessly, and obstacles melt away not through forceful effort, but through simple alignment. This is the true secret of the suppressed teachings. The ability to manifest is not a special power. It is a natural consequence of operating from non-duality. When you are the monad, there is no separation between the thinker and the thought, between the desire and the fulfillment. The creative impulse and the creative reality are one and the same. To ask for something is an act of separation. To be the monad is to be the already fulfilled reality. The final piece of the transmission is this. Do not confuse the body position with the state itself. The position is the key that unlocks the door, the specific configuration of the biological technology that cancels the interference. But the monad is the room you walk into. Once you are in the room, you do not need to constantly adjust the key. The position becomes a sacred habit, a daily recalibration. But the state persists underneath your waking activity. You move, you speak, you work. But the silence, the knowing, the pulse of creation remains the constant background. You become a conduit, a walking antenna broadcasting the frequency of unconditioned freedom into a world desperate for signal. This is why they hunted Priscillian, not for his dogma, but for his undeniable, contagious freedom. Comment, I am the position. If you are ready, practice tonight. Let your declaration be seen, so others know they are not alone in this work. Subscribe if you have not already, because the next transmission covers what happens after first entry, how to stabilize in the monad state, and how to bring that frequency into your waking life without losing your mind. 14 countries tried to erase this knowledge. 2,000 years of suppression tried to bury it, but your body remembered. And tonight, It is time come home.